I just want to open your mic to your reflections on this opinion. And actually, I'd like to begin with this because I know you approach this with a cool professionalism and evaluating it as any scientist would, looking through a microscope in a laboratory at each one of these words. But what did you feel? What did you feel today when you were turning the pages of this opinion?
I felt pride that law still means something in this country, that it's not all politics. I felt pride that finally arguments that made no sense, that we all knew could not prevail, were systematically and yet politely dissected and basically left on the cutting room floor. What I also felt was a bit of dismay, because in an ordinary world, it wouldn't really have given Trump an opportunity to delay the start of the trial that was to have begun in Judge Chutkan's court on March the 4th. Why was it delayed? Not because there was some serious legal doubt about the proposition that no one is above the law, not that any of Trump's arguments had merit, but because the system is so designed that, in all fairness, even a frivolous argument for absolute immunity has to be considered at the outset, because if it were true that the president was immune from trial, the way one would be if there were a double jeopardy claim of the kind he foolishly tried to make, then having the trial would destroy that right before you could vindicate it. So the court methodically went through all of this. It took a month to write a brilliant opinion. That doesn't surprise me. It doesn't even bother me. What bothers me is the thought that now, even with the acceleration of the process, where the court says you have to seek a stay by Monday, otherwise we're going to be back on track. Despite all of that, we still wonder what's going to happen. I agree with the predictions of most of my colleagues, with Neil and with Al Weissman. I agree that it's unlikely the court will hear the case. And in an ordinary world, it would have no reason to hear it. There was no serious argument. The decision is bulletproof. There's no basis for thinking it would ever be reversed. And yet, if there are 5 votes on this court to delay and thereby create the possibility that he won't be tried before the election, if there are 5 votes to do that, there will be a stay. I don't think it'll happen. But what does it say about the current Supreme Court and its eagerness to get its hands on everything, to have the last word on everything, that we aren't sure? What does it say that we have to wait till Monday, watch to see if a stay is granted? If the court were performing its functions in general, as well as these 3 judges did, we wouldn't worry for a moment. We would know that the court would give the back of its hand to any request for a stay. But it is the very fact that we don't know, and the very fact that tens of millions of our fellow citizens find appealing the idea of someone who says, I couldn't do my job if I had to worry about whether I was committing a crime. The fact that we have millions of people who imagine putting that person into power, that scares me and it upsets me. And that's one of the things that moved me as I read this. I thought, here on the one hand, we have real law, and on the other hand, we have utter lawlessness, chaos, narcissism, selfishness, and a country that just might put that back into power. And so I was of 2 minds.
So 2 things here. One is the word president enough? Is that enough for the Supreme Court simply to reach down and take this case, the fact that the word president appears in the case? And then secondly, We saw the Supreme Court act in 16 days on the case involving Richard Nixon. There's a history here when the word president is involved, where the Supreme Court has acted with lightning speed.
That's true. And it acted with lightning speed when Truman seized the steel mills. It acted very quickly. In fact, it leapfrogged the Court of Appeals and did what it declined to do in this case. It was asked to take the case away from the Court of Appeals and decide it quickly itself. It didn't. It waited for the Court of Appeals. But the question you asked, is the word president enough? It may be. A court that sees itself as having the last word on everything of importance, every major question is to be decided by the court and not by expert agencies. That kind of court might think, well, if it's the president, then we, the Supreme Court, have got to have the final word. That it's not a healthy system in which we don't know what's going to happen in that circumstance.